Every time when it got deeper, more personal, we understood that there's always some challenge along your journey you would have wished that somebody was there you could exchange with. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of the Founder's Story.
The startup journey is a journey and a fight against yourself.
I think this was a really important point in my life where I realized how you have to handle also your sales activities.
And when I started PriorShift, I actually reached out to a couple of them, pitched them the product before we had even a real product.
Don't say stuff just because they want to hear it. Say stuff because you think it is the truth. Because then you can build quite a good relationship even though you don't even have a contract together.
When I learned something about sales, then it's probably confidence is everything. So everybody is good if he or she can prepare. What really sort of matters is being good in sales if you're not prepared.
As you're building a bigger team, you ain't looking for 10 times the best seller. You're looking for a combination of people that complement each other with the skills and that do different things so that the 10 can sell what is worth of 15 people.
Disconnecting the discipline of selling, understand the different crafts it needs to sell something, and then hire those people. And then while doing so, building a team. So we have a question here in the back. And in fact, this was not just a pretty looking logo, it's also a microphone.
So welcome everyone to the second episode of the Founder Story. And to make it a tradition, let's start with a selfie again today. So please everyone smile. So last time you already made all your posts and shares under the hashtag the Founder Story GCP. So please keep it up today again and make a lot of selfies and pictures together and share them. So thank you for that already. And I wasn't able to join last time. So for those who don't know me, I'm Silvana. I'm one of the organizers of the Founder Story and also your host for today. I joined Google 3 years ago. And that was 21 years before Google was founded. And at that time, with 2 employees, you can imagine that building a company culture was probably a bit of an easier task with only 2 employees. But on the other hand, Google wasn't a well-known brand yet. So hiring and attracting the right talent was probably a bit more challenging. And fast forward, the 12th of August of 2019, that was actually my first day at Google. Here you can see me on the picture among many. And I was wearing the famous Noogler hat. So for those of you who watched the movie The Internship, you might remember it. And if you wonder if it's a myth, it is not. Yeah, you can laugh at me now. So it does exist. But well, I don't want to tell you a story about Noogler hat and whether it's a myth or not. And by the way, the Noogler means new Googler. Makes sense, right? So you can see in the picture there are around 100 people. And actually, I looked up the data. And at the same day that I started at Google, 1,554 people joined with me together. So imagine onboarding so many people worldwide at such scale, making them to helping them to ramp up, bring them up to speed, and promote the culture that Google is so famous for, and that Larry and Sergey have so carefully established. And as your companies are growing, your organizations are growing, you're probably wondering the same. How can I ensure that we have the right culture in place, that we hire the right talent, that we retain them? And that's why you raised people as one of the most important pillars in the founder's journey. And that's what we're going to talk today. And for that, we have invited 2 of our dear founders who are very passionate about this topic to join me on stage today. First, I'd like to introduce you to Angela. She is the co-founder of Becurious. Before founding Becurious, she was the CEO of Baloise, Liechtenstein, for 8 years. And now she's in a mission to disrupt the insurance industry. And her current task right now is finding the people who have the same purpose as her, which is probably a bit of a different task than hiring at Baloise. Next to Be Curious, one of her passions is being a TED Talks speaker. I've seen one of her TED Talks and they're very inspiring, so I can really recommend them. And she feels very passionate about inclusion, diversity, bias, and behavioral economics. As a Google tradition, we ask always people to tell us a fun fact about themselves. And her fun fact is that she's currently learning Swahili, and now she has a vocabulary of almost 1,000 words. Please join me on stage, Angela. I will sit here. Thanks for joining me. So, our next panelist is Simon. He's the co-founder and CTO of Neon Bank, a Swiss digital bank that is growing like crazy. They have a growth of 70% year over year and a client base of 20,000 right now. And it was nominated by Forbes as the second best bank of Switzerland. Before founding Neon, he was a consultant, and he helped other financial institutions to digitalize themselves. And according to him, this succeeded sometimes. And next to Neon, he's also at the board of directors of a consulting company and an asset liability management startup. And his fun fact is that when he's learning something, he immerses himself so much into it that he really puts all the focus in. For example, when he learned how to kite, he even became a teacher soon after, so he could be in the water for much longer. Welcome to the stage, Simon. Hi. All right, so thanks for joining me today. Last time we kicked off the session by asking our founders to pitch their startup. So maybe I can ask you the same. Can you tell me in 30 seconds what Neon and what Becurious is about, and also elaborate a bit on your organizational culture? Angela, do you want to go first?
Thank you. Be Curious was actually the name because when I started, I had no idea how I was going to disrupt insurance. I just started very openly. And then over the last 16 months, I learned a lot and developed an idea, which is basically to create a blockchain-based platform for decentralized small communities that then, but on the platform, are connected to help each other when a larger event happens. So that is basically the platform is the reinsurance for the small communities. And I decided to not start this here in Europe, and hence the Swahili. I went to Kenya in February to learn about communities, how they work there. Because I want to start in places where people do not have access to traditional insurance today.
Thank you. Simon, tell us a bit more about Neon.
We started Neon to build the best banking challenger in Switzerland, to basically create a product that the everyday Swiss guy or gal will use for banking, for all the banking needs. So not some fancy private banking stuff, but really plain vanilla, best UX, best banking product. And I believe we have, to some extent, succeeded doing that. And right now we have 120,000 clients. And
sorry.
growing basically by the day. And for us, the next step will be to build an actual bank, get a banking license, and become the best bank of Switzerland.
And Simon, before we were when we were outside, you told me that you find like you're very passionate about this topic because people is about like it's a very broad topic, right? You have to think about like finding the right talent, hiring them, retaining them, and also topics such as offboarding. But before we dig deeper into this kind of different subtopics, Angela, you said actually there's one pillar missing in this 5, and it's purpose. So why do you think this is the case?
Why it is missing on your slide?
Yeah,
I cannot
say.
Why I think it is important is I do think that purpose is a very important ingredient for founders to have the energy and also the also the like the sustained like going forward to achieve that is that you know why are you doing that. If you just do it because you read an article where you found an idea that you might think is good, then it is different than when it really comes from inside you, when you have your own why. Why are you doing this? This is, I think, an important ingredient, and that's why, for me, purpose is missing on the slide. It's maybe a little bit in the people bullet point contained, but I think it's so important that it deserves an extra circle.
Yeah, as a founder, I guess you're very driven by your purpose, right? And last session, if you remember, Alain said like you will never find, or it's very difficult to assume as a founder that you will find people that are as purpose driven as you as a founder yourself. Do you think that like how did that reflect on your first hiring, Simon, for example?
Actually, the first two hires that pop up, they were as driven as we were. So that were two lucky shots. Mm-hmm. The first was our CFO. It was the one and only lady in the Neon leadership team, and unfortunately she left the company in the meantime. And it was our first head of engineering, and they put in the same crazy hours and were totally driven. That being said, I believe that was very much a lucky shot. And what Angela said, having a joint purpose, making clear what is the purpose of the company, is probably the most important pillar of the culture and one of the success factors for building a company culture where everybody puts in all his energy. Mm.
And so now you're at your 55th employee. Did I get that fact right? So how has that changed, or what do you look for right now?
Yes, it has changed. I believe that with a growing number of people, culture becomes much more important. Whereas I'm the CTO, so I'm talking mainly about engineers. In the beginning, if somebody is maybe not as socially capable, but can code and really create stuff, that is super important in the early stage. In a later stage, you actually want at least both types of engineers. You want the communicating type and also making sure that stuff goes orderly, that QA plays an important role. And then you also want a couple of the crazy ones who work all over the weekend and get shit done. And then you need to find a balance.
Yeah, and for example, talking about change, a few weeks ago, I joined the Start Summit. Maybe if you know, a few of you were there and know it. I was at a talk from Julian Teike from WeFox, and one thing that he said that, for example, has also changed at WeFox recently due to COVID is that the global talent pool has been much wider now, because while before they were actually looking at locations where they have offices, now they're rather looking at the talent pool worldwide. And also, for example, you're starting your venture in Africa. So what do you think, like, what are like the challenges and opportunities there?
The challenges for someone like me from Europe going there is that I do have to understand there first. I have to understand the culture, how the country works. The potential is I have been to different incubators and startup places in Nairobi and in Kenya. There is a huge amount of talent there that you can take and build on. You said before in the introduction that I was looking for the right people, and I really want people who share the purpose, and I think I told you once before, I'm not looking for employees.
Yeah. You said that, yeah.
I'm looking for purpose companions. I look for people who share my passion, and I do think it is possible to do that. I have and I use possibilities like this tonight to talk about my passion and my purpose, and hopefully word gets around. It already has happened that now people starting to contacting me, and I do think an organization, especially one that has a social purpose that as mine has, should not be someone who has people who only come for work for the check. It has to be people who really come for the purpose.
And how is it for you? Has it changed now that you have, like, as I said, like, you have people now everywhere? Like, I know that you have offices not only in Zurich, but you also have people in Munich, in Belgrade. So how do you bring them together? How do you bring teams together that are remotely all, and how do you work towards the same purpose?
Mm-hmm. It's a long question. Before I answer it, Anyhow, so we have different offices, and we had an office in Yerevan. Before that was our first team. It was classic outsourcing. They had a team on the bench. We could start right away, which was amazing for the first months. And we quickly realized that there was so much miscommunication. They were highly motivated. It was really good on that sense, but quite frequently they didn't get us. And then there was mistrust, and we asked for deadlines, which in retrospect we shouldn't have. And frankly, it didn't work out. Like I was flying over there, but flying there was a full day. Getting back was another day. That was just, the invest was too high. And a key takeaway was that working in a hybrid way, yes, we did that pre-COVID, and we're doing it now even more. But I very much believe that to build trust, you need to meet on-site frequently. So at NEON, we're doing this every 2 months. And maybe every 3 months works. I believe everything that's wider spaced, it doesn't work anymore. So in that sense, hybrid, yes, but only remote, I don't think it works.
Yeah, that's very similar to the approach that Google is taking now, that we have now a hybrid work week, and where we work some days in the office and some days we work from home or from whatever we want. So I guess that's the approach that many are taking. And for example, do you think when the teams come together, is it mostly for a fun activity, for a bonding activity, or how do you set up this time together?
Mm-hmm. So we share a purpose, we share a vision, we want to create stuff. I believe that wherever you work, you're not happy just because you do yoga after work and drink a beer. You're happy there because you create stuff, because you have impact. In that sense, when we're meeting, then typically one day is to do the stuff that you always do, just on site, in the same room. Use a whiteboard for the discussion instead of like a virtual Miro board. One day is explicit, let's say, culture and team activities. And of course, we do evening activities, maybe getting drunk together a bit, because that also fosters social bonding. But I believe it's all of that. It's not just fun and games.
And how do you do it, Angela, or how are you planning to do it in the future?
I'm still in an early phase, but one way I wanna build this is also to involve potential future clients in the development, and something that I'm working on right now is to prepare another trip to Nairobi or to Kenya. And what I want to do is design thinking workshops with Kenyans. I have access to a very good group of people who come out of low-income families, but now are at university. So they have both. They have the the breadth of thinking that you have when you have a university degree, but they still know what life is like, what is growing up in a low-income family. And I want to do design thinking workshops with them to create prototypes of future communities that we then can test over maybe a period of 6 months, where they will be involved as well. And so I'm going step by step. So I'm convinced then that some of them will probably be also future purpose companions.
So so for you, development seems to be a very important topic and very high on your agenda.
Insurance is about people. I mean, it's organizing risk communities is about people, and that's why I think the people that are part of or will be part of the communities should also be part of the creation phase. Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to add one thing to the purpose companions, and that is, at Neon we deliberately pay market standard salaries. So even in Serbia we could pay top market rates. We don't, because the type of people we want to attract are purpose companions. We don't want the salary hunters.
Yeah, I guess that's a good example of how do you balance the extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, right? What is the right balance there? And one thing, for example, now that you have 55 employees, right? You're more in a growth stage. So do you provide your employees a development path, or how does it work at Neon?
So yes, we do. What we do at the moment, and that seems to work quite nicely, is we do annual appraisals, where we do 360-degree interviews. It's a pretty elaborate process where all employees get once per year a detailed appraisal feedback. The tone is very positive. So they that much of what they did well, and not just you did well, but very specifically what exactly. And then they typically get 2 to 3 development goals. And that is quite important, they are relatively general in nature. So it will be along the lines of, hey, improve your communication, do X, Y, Z there, in order to achieve a certain goal. We experimented with OKRs, objectives and key results, for a while.
Very well known here at Google.
And a sad story is OKRs didn't work for Neon. Our goals were and still are much too short term, and we never found the proper alignment. And changing the OKRs every 3 months, it makes everybody unhappy.
Yeah, I think that's also something very important to highlight when you're in a startup or in a scale up, that things change quite frequently, right? So would you say that in general, as you grow, you rather go with the flow and see how things evolve, or do you have a certain structure? Okay, this is what we want to do in 6-12 months. This is where we want to be.
The answer is yes, it's both. So we do have a high-level roadmap, and sometimes we keep it, and quite frequently we say, hey, we learned something new, or here's an opportunity, or frankly, something took much longer to develop, so we need to adjust. So the roadmap is more like a North Star guiding us. It's not something that we actually, it's really hard to keep it.
Yeah. And Angela, what about you? You said you're at a very early stage right now. Do you already have kind of a roadmap how you want Becurious to evolve, develop certain milestones?
That's a very dangerous question. I usually answer that question with, of course, my ultimate goal is to conquer the world. And I'm not kidding, because I do think I also chose countries where there are a lot of people who do not have access to insurance, because there is a much better possibility to start with an MVP, like a minimum viable product that does not have to be so sophisticated as people are used here from insurance companies, and then you can but then you can grow with them, and when you talk about people not having access to insurance, I do see a moment where this platform can also come back to Europe. And for example, go to Germany, where last year we learned that more than 50% of the house owners in Germany don't have access to flood insurance, and were not insured when the floods happened. And there were some that don't want that, but there are some that wanted it, but they cannot afford it, or the insurance companies are not even offering it because they're living in a place that is too exposed to, like, what from insurance point of view, too exposed to the risk of floods. So there is a possibility to go to Europe. In the United States, you have a large group of people who do not have access to health insurance. So there also in the Western world, in the developed world, are a lot of groups or large groups of people who do not have access to insurance. That's maybe not in 2 years from now, but maybe 5 years from now, it is absolutely possible. And also, that is not a book that I read last year, but a long time ago, is The Innovator's Solution and the Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. And there it clearly says, when you want to disrupt something, start with the non-customers. So maybe at some point, these platform communities will also start to cover risks that are covered by traditional insurance. Not at the beginning, and it will fly under the radar, but then at some point it will start to also grab parts of the market of the traditional insurance.
Well, conquering the world is definitely a bold statement, and it takes also a lot of leadership skills, right? To bring people together, to work towards this purpose. So what do you think, as I know you said, for example, you don't want Be Curious to have a hierarchy and where you have management and different layers, but still it needs kind of certain, I guess, leadership skills to have people, to bring people together and work towards this goal. So what do you think is like your role as a leader here?
I hope that Be Curious will stay very small, because the purpose of a decentralized organization, of a kind of DAO-like organization for insurance, means it's decentralized. So I don't want to have a central large organization that at some point becomes like all those old, slow, traditional insurance companies. I want it to stay lean, and it needs to be a facilitator who helps the DAO to develop. But a lot of the things need to happen decentral in the DAO, on the blockchain, and in the network.
Very interesting. And Simon, as part of the leadership team at Neon, what do you think is your role as a leader, as a manager?
In terms of how to shape the organization?
Yes, how to shape the organization, people.
When we were a bit more early stage than we still are, it was super easy because we all fit into one room and we all communicated over lunch, and customer service brought their problems to the table, and then IT looked away because it was just too many bugs, too many issues. It's quite typical. And at some point we figured, we don't have that anymore. We're still sitting at lunch together, but maybe the lunch table is a bit bigger, and we're not talking that much anymore. And in a certain sense, that's good, because we don't want to become the huge corporate with centralized function and a top-down Tayloristic hierarchy. At the same time, what we're doing is we have, let's say, domain teams, where a certain team covers a domain, and then there's minimal friction, and we have organized exchanges in a way where people still talk to each other. And what already happens is that we have like small subcultures. So it's a little bit of difference and a little bit different language and maybe a different development approach and so on. And for me, it's about finding the right balance between empowering the teams to do their thing and also optimizing themselves versus they become too independent and it's actually two companies in one company. And how to do that, I think we're still a bit experimenting.
Yeah, we have another person in the room who has also made a lot of experience with building teams from scratch and seeing teams and organizations grow a lot. And that is also our next panelist, Bianca. She's head of corporate sales at Google Cloud. Before joining us, she was at Microsoft for 9 years, where she built and managed teams from indirect to direct sales, from SMB to enterprise. And next to her role at Google, she's also she's also in the board of directors of a small IT company. And she also promotes women equality in tech as part of her network called Compañeras. And her fun fact is that she was the second champion of Settlers of Catan in Germany in a tournament that lasted 42 hours. Please welcome, come on stage, Bianca.
Thank you.
So, as I said before, you have a lot of experience in building teams from scratch. I remember when you joined our team, we were 3 people. Now we are 12 people, and we have even a management layer in between. So you have seen teams like here at Google, but also before grow. So can you tell us a bit about your insights? How do you go? How do you manage all this growth?
There is no secret sauce, right? So there is not like I can say I just follow this route and then this is like basically how it works. I think it is down to a lot of empathy, so that each individual person is a person. So you're not having a group of 12, a group of 20, a group of 60, but you're still knowing them and you know that they fit together somehow. From a value perspective, we heard a lot about purpose and a lot about like what motivates people to be part of something. I think this is the same for any team in general, even in a large organization like we are. And then the values is for me the key topic, so that those values fit together. And from that, you can start to create the trust, to create the different team spirit, and then have a common goal, and all that will nicely fit together. But it is less about what's the rucksack, what everybody brings with. It's more about, do they really fit together from a core value down to their deepest insights. So that's probably one of the things I am super passionate about, right? Where I don't do any kind of I do not compromise on that one. So that's a basic that needs to be there. And it's probably even more important when you're in sales, because sometimes sales can be misunderstood by doing something that is probably not ethically correct. And of course we all know that, but if you have the same values, the same things that bond you, then there is no question about that.
Yeah, I guess it's also the question. So, do you rather hire for cultural fit or for like a specific skill set?
And well, at Google there is no question about that. So some people have read about that. We experience it every day. I experience it in my own hiring and how we are hiring. It's about Googliness, and the Googliness is 3 things basically. One is ethic. Right? We do not do compromises on that one. And that goes down to, from a recruitment perspective, that someone that is somewhere really far outside of your team that is doing the interview on Googliness, so that there is no bias in there. So ethic is number 1. Second is collaboration. So we really hire for team spirit. We are not the lonely wolves. We're getting checked. very intensively asked and developed in terms of how well can we collaborate with each other. And that goes to customers, because there is a collaboration in customers and not a pure selling like the Wolves of Wall Street, if you know that wonderful movie. It's about how do you collaborate with the customers, with the partners involved, and with your different teammates. Because there is no sales that happens on its own. It's always with the technical resources, with the partners, with other colleagues from services, wherever. So this is a core piece that needs to be part of ourselves. Less coachable, to be honest. It's really that we hire that, or we are actually looking for that as a core capability in people. So it's ethics, it's collaboration, and the third one that we are looking for, it's focus on the user. And on purpose, we don't say focus on the customer, because a user is ourselves, is all people. We all use Google stuff, and everybody that uses Google, and I guess it's almost everybody that has access to the internet, is the ones that we want to focus on from all the different perspectives. So the person itself, the human being, is in the middle.
Yeah, and one important point that you raised, that not only the company culture matters, right, but to have also like a team culture. And you said that you have also subcultures, let's say, within Neon. So yeah, I guess also, for example, in cloud, in Google Cloud, we have a sometimes like we have a very high-paced environment with high quotas, and you said like we still want to work as a team. We don't want any lone wolves. So how do you balance this?
Mm-hmm. I guess that is the. Let me answer it in two flavors. So number one is, it's probably the biggest challenge I am and my peers are facing at the moment in Google Cloud, because the culture itself has been developed over the last 20 plus years, as you described, from 2 engineers and then thousands of more engineers. Here in Switzerland, there are roughly 5,000 engineers and then a few sellers. So we're the little weird people that are running around that yeah, probably are a little different overall. More loud, more outspoken, a different culture as well, right? Because for us, this piece of what is a Googler with this Googliness and ethics and all that, super important as core values. And as I said, we do not do any kind of compromises on that one. But we have to marry it with other core capabilities that I call accountability, drive for results, and some kind of a winning spirit, right? And this is a different flavor. I'm not saying it's better or less good. It's just how salespeople are. And everybody that works with salespeople, like the sales engineers, customer engineers, and partners, and all of that stuff gets infected by this sales culture. And it has good flavors in there, especially when you marry them with the core flavors that we have from a culture from Google. So to answer your question, in my let's say number one answer is, how do you marry this? By making it very clear to the team, because as you said, it's a high pace. It's we get targets that are, when we receive them in January, and you might remember, Silvana, you think, crazy, that's not gonna happen. But once you're there as a team and you start to digest it and you're coming up with ideas and you're thinking, why not, right? Why can't we dream big? And now that we're in May, we think, wow, this is reachable. Yes, we need to just do a little more stuff, but this is really doable. And this bonds already, because you have a common goal, a common craziness goal with unlimited possibilities in your mind. I'm not saying in money and everything, but in your mind. And this is how you're basically forming this team, by having this, on the one hand, common joint foundation of how we are, what values we have, where we don't do compromises. Secondly, the super high goal where you think, oh gosh, this is totally crazy, but everything in the middle is something that we can create. And this flexibility and possibility bonds, and I think is very, very motivating, because no one tells us, and this is probably very unusual because I come from Microsoft, where this is a machine, right? Exists 45 years, 46 years, exactly you know what is your role in this machine, and you're just fulfilling this machine. If you're not there, the machine still works. For us, we as people are still so core that if we're not there, nothing is going to happen. That is one piece, and the second piece is that the creativity, we can really try out everything we want, because no one was actually doing that before. No one had that role before. No one was trying that before. And I find that very inspiring. And by being together in this crazy challenge, sometimes, I mean, you described a very crazy challenge and a crazy idea as well, and so did you. By sitting together in this crazy idea and crazy challenge about something that no one else did before, this unifies. And I think this is one of that's the second piece that unifies us together.
Yeah, I think this is a really good summary of what the Google culture is about, because it seems to many like a mystery. Like, what do they do? Is it the free food? Is it the gym? Is it the nap rooms? But I guess it goes like well beyond that, and I think that summarizes it pretty quickly. So one other topic that I would really like to touch is like you as part of your women network, compañeras, and also being in the IT industry for quite a long while in a very male-dominated environment. And I guess, Angela, you in the insurance company, you know that as well. So what do you do to promote more equality in your teams and attract more female talent to your teams?
Let me answer again in two flavors. My answer number one is being aware about it, that I believe it's important. And the second answer is nothing special. Because for me, it doesn't matter what the person looks like, what the person's like, whatever, if they have a dog or a cat or is a female. So for me, at the end, it is not important. As I said, the values are more important. I think, but if you give equal chances, automatically you have more diversity in the team that is happening. So Google gets roughly 1 million applications per year, right? And surprisingly, we might think surprisingly, there is a fair share almost of everything. Why? Because if you provide equal possibilities, then everybody can apply. I give an example. If you want to work part-time, you have at Google the possibility to overhire. So that is usually an issue. I compare it to Microsoft. The Microsoft way is if you want to hire someone part-time, you're losing 100% job. You can't hire 250 for the same FTE. Here, if you want to hire part-time, I can do 1 FTE to 170%. So for the same role. So I even get a bonus, by the environment. And statistics have shown that those jobs are equally now taken by male and female, because a lot of male might have the same idea of just whatever, do whatever they think they want to invest their lifetime, plus have a fantastic job. So I think, therefore, I'm saying, what am I doing to? I don't want to say promote it, because there is no promotion that is needed, because I'm a strong believer of everybody should have the same chance, but the environment needs to support it. That's probably the core message. And to build this environment and do the stretch in saying, I have more work to hire 2 people for the same role, because there is a lot of interaction that still needs to be done. That is probably the extra mile that we're doing as a team.
So, and I will be actually very interested in Angela and Simon, your take on this topic.
I like to think that we provide equal opportunities, and for sure we provide the environment that you just described, in the sense that whoever wants to do part-time can do part-time. And I mean, we don't have quotas, so if we need more capacity, we just add more capacity. And off the top of my head, I'd say that roughly 30 to 50% of people at Neon work in some kind of part-time arrangement. So it's accepted, it's done. At the same time, there was a TV event maybe 18 months ago. So a TV crew came to the office, and quite naturally, and we had this like Wheel of Fortune thingy going on, and the TV crew selected a girl to do that, and nobody stepped in. So we try to think we're on the good side. Actually, we have a few miles to go. And in that sense, I think it's really, really hard to do diversity properly and to really like ingrain that in your culture. And we are certainly not there yet.
Thanks for sharing that so openly.
Thank you.
And I think it reminds all of us as well. With all the beauty, how it looks like, it takes the us that lives it every day. I agree.
Yeah.
And we're sometimes also trapped in all the socialization and everything that has been put into us through childhood and our lives. I was very maybe I can share from Kenya. I was very encouraged and showed me also that it has a lot to do with socialization. That like how we are here socialized here in Western Europe or in the United States. In Kenya, I have met a lot of strong women, and most of the savings corporations that I talk to are actually mostly women-driven in Kenya. So there is a lot of action and initiative going on by women, and that showed me that maybe that things or that we struggle with here is it's definitely not nature, or like it's definitely not nature. It is actually nurture, and that we have to work on that part. But I also do think, because nurture, it takes time, that we also have to, and you said that I'm also interested in diversity and inclusion as a topic. We do have to acknowledge that when there are opportunities, males and females behave differently to go for that opportunity, and if we say there's an opportunity and the first one who comes for it will get it, or the first one who makes the strongest case for it will get it, then if we want to create equality and have more diversity in organizations, we should not just let one kind of behavior dominate. Then we have to address also that maybe then we would have to, if we want more diversity, we also have to give different paths to get to that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not an easy topic, and I would love to talk hours, or I could talk hours about it, because I feel very passionate about it as well. But we don't have that much time left, so unfortunately I have to, I have to open up not fortunately I have to up the Q&A, but to stop it here. But now we've heard from you about what it is to recruit people, to hire people, find the talent, grow them, and set up the right organizational culture. Thank you very much for sharing all your insights and sharing them also openly. And now let's open up the round for our other founders who are here to pose their questions to the others, to our panelists. So is there any questions that you have, Tore? Oh, sorry. So I will throw, this is a microphone, as you probably saw from the video, because you weren't here last time, right? But so you only have to speak here, and then you should be fine. Oh, I'm really bad at throwing, as you could see.
But can you hear me? Is it on? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Thor, co-founder of BLP Digital. We are ETH spin-off that works in the ERP process automation space. Currently 12 people, and 9 of them developers, 3 on the business side, me being one of them. And we're in the fortunate situation that our business is exploding, but now I need to hire people. And as we're bootstrapped, I can't just hire an army of 50 people from some VC's money, but I have to be very careful about it. And my issue and question more or less to all 3 of you is, where do you draw the line? Like, because right now I'm in the point, I'm interviewing people and no one feels just good enough. At the same time, I need people to start yesterday. So where do you balance between speed and quality and pickiness, and yeah, how do you make the call that this is the person you want to hire and you want to bank on?
So who would like to give their
I can
take
give
on-
an opinion at the start. I do not compromise on people. So it takes so much longer to have the wrong person because the onboarding still takes so much time. And then the let's say the side effects that can happen with the wrong person is like we don't even want to imagine. So, and I have the same pressure, by the way, because I am having a target and I don't have a position filled. So it simply means that I'm not going to be able to reach my targets. So, but I do not make a compromise of just having someone a fill instead of the right fill, and invest the right onboarding, invest the right time, because I'm asking even more people than just myself to focus on the onboarding and everything, that at the end for the wrong person it would be not the right thing to do. So again, I do not compromise on people.
It's easy to say I don't compromise on people, and nobody wants to do that. At the same time, you're a young company. Unfortunately, it's not only ETH nuclear scientists applying at your company, and at some point you need to make the cut, or you want to make the cut. So for me, the key question is, will we be better off with this guy or gal on board? I'm not saying hire everyone that applies. From my experience, the first hire is the hardest. The first time you hire someone, the first time you say, hey, thumbs up, that's the hardest, because your reputation feels like it's on the line. And once you have some experience, it will be much easier. So my message is, maybe have a look at 10 persons, and the next one who's better than anyone from the 10, hire this person. So sample a bit and then just move.
I cannot much add to that. I have always, also in my previous job, I have always paid much more attention to does the person fit into the organization and into the team? Because I always said, like, the skills, if that are missing, I can teach him or her. The attitude is much more difficult to change. So I want people with the right attitude, and everything else they can learn. And if they are really also buy into your purpose and what you're doing with your company, they will also be highly motivated to learn as quickly as possible to them, because they want, if they buy into the purpose, they also want to contribute to that purpose.
Thank you. And maybe if I can add to this topic a sentence or two. My issue is I'm not so worried about hiring a complete misfit. I mean, this is something that you then ideally quickly identify, you cut your losses, and then you've lost a couple months in effort. But I'm more worried about hiring someone who's okay, maybe good enough, and that hanging with that mediocrity, which I can't afford really in my situation. And because I don't have the opportunity to just hire an additional one and a third and a fourth person, but I have to get that cash flow. It's like, okay, if I hire that one, I can't hire the other. That might come around in 2 weeks' time. So I'm exactly at that point. Do I look at that 11th person, the 12th one? Where do I make the cut when it's good enough? Yeah? And how long can I wait to get great? Thank you.
Do we have other questions in the round? No one.
One thing I always wonder
Can you maybe throw the microphone to Christoph?
Can't destroy anything.
I'm not sure if it's working. Is it? It is. It is?
I guess it is.
Okay.
So one thing I always wonder is the hiring for cultural fit, and I wanted to clarify something that you said, because you mentioned then 3 points that you look for. Is this the cultural fit? Is this basically all that you look for? Because no, there's more. If there is more,
Foundation. The 3 I mentioned is the core foundation.
it's the core,
Yes.
right? Yeah. If it is more, then I'm always a little bit skeptical myself, because are you not just then ending up with a very monotonous environment, and your diversity, basically you throw it out of the window, and that's not really what you want. So that's always the concern that I have when people in my team say, "Oh, this is not a cultural fit," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, okay. First of all, let's drill down. What is it really? What you mean when you say cultural fit? But then also, do we really only want to hire people that follow that specific culture that we have in mind?"
So this is the Google, right? So again, if you're part of Google, this is how it is. And those 3 topics there are no compromises on those. If you don't have the ethical standards, and again, we can like it or not, but this is what is definitely a no.
That's clear.
Yeah.
That's the 3 foundational.
Exactly. That is what it is. Then within the teams, there might be additional ones, right? Because on those 3, these are equal to everybody. Like, for example, as I said, in sales, you might look for a different kind of attitude or core capabilities than in a development environment, where you might need different areas again. And that is something that you can do. Plus, those are not equal to everybody, right? So because I have different roles in the team, then you can think about what attitude do you need for this particular role, and it might be different, if this answers it. So
my takeaway is you're saying in the end it is exactly these 3.
Those 3, yes.
There can be more cultural fit, but that can vary vastly between the different teams. So it's not a kind of a global company cultural fit in that sense.
So there is a global company cultural fit on those 3, full stop. And all the rest, right, is more for the individual team if it fits there, and if you have to establish something in addition to that, yes.
And if your culture is, or one of the values of your culture is, we want to have a diverse workforce, then that is part also of your selection process, that when you look for someone new, that you look at, is that someone who brings a new facet, a new aspect to my organization. Like last time we heard with the sales also, that you don't look for a copy of the successful sales that you already have in your house, but you look for someone that complements your team, that brings something new into the team, and that is also then a cultural fit as well.
So do we have any other questions in the round? Or are you all thirsty and hungry?
One last question, perhaps to all 3 panelists. How have you changed the way you are looking and hiring for people as you're scaling your team? So obviously, when you're building up a team, the first hires are absolutely critical. Have you changed the way you hire once the team is bigger? Or have you kept the same standards, same guidelines?
Do you want to start? I can.
You go first.
Me again? Oh, wow. So for me, it's not the size of the team that is that makes a difference, right? So on the cultural thing, as I said, the 3, that is Googliness, full stop. But it's not the size of the team for me, because we're in this fast-changing business still. So basically, it's more about the hire for the potential. So is there enough potential for flexibility, for doing a different flavor of a job, for a different, whatever, a creative idea that might come up, or challenges and all of the things that are the unknown at the moment. So I'd say it's less of the what is in the rucksack, it's more of the potential that is in the person.
At Neon, when we set up the new location in Belgrade, the first 2 hires clearly were the potential tech leads. So we were hiring very senior persons, like the persons who were supposed and did indeed drive the location forward first. If we're hiring now, we still hire for potential, but the rucksack, as you say, is less important. So now we hire more junior engineers with a lot of potential, but they don't need to be tech leads in a year. In that sense, the first hires really are the most important ones, and later on you can sort of go more for what you see in the person, and you can also maybe afford a recruiting mistake here and there, because this will happen.
And I guess also this brings up also a question, maybe a last question from my side. So when do you let go, like, of people?
It's funny because we had that conversation earlier in the break or before we joined here. So letting go is never or should never be a surprise, was one of the statements I made. So for me, transparency is super important, and it's about a feedback culture, and that you're giving feedback is the way how I show respect for the person, that I value whatever the person stands for, but there are gaps that needs to be addressed, and if you don't give the transparency, the person doesn't know. So it is at the end an ultimate kind of like decision that you're probably taking, or that the person is gonna take. So it's not always you or someone else, or a joint, right? Very often it happened to me that when you're very clear about the expectation of the role or of whatever the current task is, and that the gap is too big or the person doesn't want to address it, both happens, then it shouldn't be a surprise. So there are a lot of conversations in between.
Exactly this. If something doesn't go so well, we're not letting an engineer go or any employee, but we give feedback, and then the feedback becomes more frequent and maybe more constructive, and the gap becomes noticeable. And then typically an employee leaves on its own will, because the kind of person we hire in the first place is also not the kind of person who will just sit in their chair and not move forward anymore.
Yeah, I agree that it should not be a surprise. There should always be conversations and feedbacks and before. There is, for me, I see 2 ways that people leave. People maybe that we realize they're wrong people for the team and do not fit the job. There we can also maybe use the feedback first to try to change them, but then also to help them to realize what they're not finding here and where they should look for that, because that helps them then also to maybe find something else. And I also have the people that I also struggled with in the past, always with my team leaders or department heads, that they were angry when people left where they had invested years of development in. And there I say those are people or those are events that we actually as teams or as organizations should celebrate. Because that means we have been a nurturing ground for this person to grow up to the point where she could not maybe grow anymore here, and that's why she's now leaving and doing something else. And that leaves also then a kind of a relationship with that person to maybe then return back at a later time in a different role into the organization.
Well, I'd like to wrap it out here. Thanks for sharing so openly about also like more sensitive topics. And yeah, before I let you go to the apéro, I would really like to ask for feedback from your side, because this really helps in making this community even better, and and making the other sessions even more successful. And as I said before, also please share on social media under the hashtag #TheFounderStoryGCP. Take a lot of pictures together and comment and like. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining today. A special thank you for our panelists, to all of you who asked their questions or listened so carefully, and also to our crew for accompanying us throughout the whole time. And yeah, as soon as you have left your feedback, feel free to go out and take some drinks and food. And also, if you have any burning questions, we are still around. I hope you're still around, so you can still post them on a more like one-to-one basis. Thanks, everyone.